I found someone worth my time. That's how I found out my marriage was over at 11:08 p.m. on a Tuesday. My name is Miller White. I'm a 42-year-old civil engineer living in Fort Wayne, Indiana. Right now, I'm sitting in my home office, a converted sunroom with a view of the backyard Tiffany and I landscaped 2 summers ago, staring at an email from my wife of 13 years. She didn't have the guts or decency to call or tell me in person, I thought to myself. Tiffany was supposed to be at a silent meditation retreat in Colorado. The timestamp on her email showed 10:47 p.m. Mountain Time. I've moved your inheritance into my personal account. It's better this way. Attached was a photo, crisp, clear, and unmistakable. Tiffany and some guy with a beard standing on a balcony, glasses of wine in hand, sunset bleeding into the Rockies behind them. Her smile was easy, unguarded. The kind she hadn't given me in years. I closed my laptop and walked to the kitchen, poured myself a glass of water from the tap, stared out the window at the flagstone path I'd laid myself, the lavender bushes Tiffany planted along the edges. All that work, all those plans, for a home she'd apparently already left behind. That money, $612,000, wasn't just cash. It came from my Uncle Greg, the man who took me in after my parents' car accident when I was 16. He'd worked maintenance at the power plant, double shifts most weeks, to put me through Purdue. When he died of a heart attack last year, he left me everything with a single note scribbled on the back of an old gas station receipt. Make something solid. I checked my phone. No missed calls. No frantic follow-up texts asking if I'd seen her email. Just silence. Like she'd already moved on to whatever came next. Like she was so sure that the transfer of my inheritance was a done deal. The signs had been there, of course. Tiffany's meditation retreats had started as weekend workshops. Then 3 days. Then full weeks. Her phone, which used to light up with dumb memes for me while she brushed her teeth at night, now stayed face down on every surface. Then came the password changes. Banking apps locked when they'd never been before. Conversations about finances that ended abruptly when I asked specific questions. Our other conversations clipped short. One night, I found her on the phone in the backyard, voice low, laughing in ways she didn't laugh with me anymore. When she noticed me, she said, "Just Candy from work," coming inside. Candy, who'd traveled to Japan 5 months earlier. I nodded silently and didn't contradict her. I just watched as she poured herself more wine and changed the subject. For months ago, over meatloaf at the kitchen table, she'd asked, "Where exactly is Greg's money held? Wouldn't it be smarter to consolidate accounts?" I'd chewed slowly, said I'd think about it. I reopened the laptop, reared her email. No greeting. Not even my name. Just the declaration and the theft. I typed 5 words in response. "Thanks for letting me know." Then I closed the laptop, finished my water, and went to bed. Tomorrow would be a long day. But as I lay alone in that king-sized bed we'd picked out together at Haverty's, I realized something that should have bothered me but didn't. I slept better knowing she wasn't coming home. The next morning, I woke at dawn. Old habit. The bed was still empty. The house was still quiet. I showered, dressed, and made coffee black, no sugar, the way I'd taken it since college. The kitchen smelled faintly of lavender, the scent lingering from the essential oils Tiffany used to diffuse every morning. I wondered if Jason Cole liked lavender, if he knew how much those oils cost, if he cared. At 8:15 a.m., I parked outside Bright Financial Advisors, a brick storefront off Jefferson Boulevard where my advisor, Theo, had kept my books straight for a decade. The waiting room smelled like old newspapers and burnt coffee. Theo looked up from his desk when I walked in. He was a heavy-set man with a perpetual 5 o'clock shadow, his shirt sleeves always rolled to the elbows. "Miller," he said, frowning. "You look like hell. I need to check on the trust." He didn't ask questions. Just turned to his computer, typed with 2 fingers. A few clicks, then a slow exhale through his nose. "It's still there," he said. "Every damn penny." I leaned forward. "She tried to move it?" "Tried and failed." He spun the monitor toward me. 3 attempts over the past month. All blocked. The trust's ironclad, Megan Cooper, made sure of that. Megan, Uncle Greg's attorney. A woman who'd once threatened to sue a funeral home for charging extra for a premium casket. I called her from the parking lot. "Miller," she answered, her voice like gravel in a tin can. "Let me guess." Tiffany finally made her move. Megan had warned me 6 months ago, after the will cleared probate. That money's protected, but that won't stop someone from trying. I gripped the phone. She sent an email. Said she'd moved it. A dry chuckle. She's lying. Or stupid. Either way, we've got records. IP addresses, timestamps, the whole 9 yards. "Where are you right now?" "Outside Theo's office." "Good. Come to mine. Bring a flash drive." Megan's office smelled like mothballs and bourbon. She handed me a manila folder thick with paperwork. "Your uncle wasn't just careful," she said. "He was paranoid. The trust's irrevocable. Tiffany couldn't touch it if she hired a team of hackers and a damn priest." I flipped through the pages. Legal jargon, notarized signatures, Uncle Greg's looping cursive on the last page. "Make something solid." Megan tapped a fingernail against the folder. "Now, the question is, what else has she tried to take?" If you're enjoying this story, kindly do us a favor and subscribe to our channel. It is free and means the world to us. We're just a small channel trying to grow. Thank you, and back to the video. I drove home, the folder on the passenger seat. The house was still empty. No note. No text. Upstairs, I opened my laptop and logged into our shared cloud storage. Tiffany and I had used it for years. Vacation photos, tax documents, plans for the farmhouse renovation we'd talked about last spring. I clicked the folder labeled Farmhouse Ideas. And there it was. Screenshots of my bank accounts. PDFs of transfer protocols. A photo of a whiteboard in what looked like a hotel room, scribbled with numbers. 612,000 to 20. 612,000 to 2,489,600. Wire instructions, Northern Lake CU. My hands didn't shake. My breath didn't hitch. I felt nothing but a cold, clean clarity. She'd been planning this for months. 16 years earlier, I'd met Tiffany at a networking event in Indianapolis. She was 28, all sunlight and ambition, launching a holistic wellness brand called Pure Balance. I was a junior engineer, hungry for projects that weren't sewage plants or highway overpasses. "I need someone to design my studio," she'd said, touching my arm. "Someone who gets what I'm trying to build." We married 3 years later. Bought the farmhouse with the wraparound porch she'd pinned on Pinterest. Hosted dinner parties where she served quinoa salads and talked about de-stressing protocols while I poured wine and nodded. "No kids. The business is my baby," she'd say. And for a while it worked. I closed the laptop, picked up my phone, dialed a number Megan had scribbled on a post-it. Lillian Kent answered on the second ring. "Miller White," she said. "Megan told me you'd call." I stared out the window at the lavender, now overgrown. "I need to file for divorce." The text came at 11:42 a.m., just as I was leaving Megan's office. "Did you get my email?" Tiffany's words glowed on my phone screen, casual as a grocery list reminder. No apology. No explanation. Just 5 words pretending to be innocent. I slid the phone back into my pocket without responding. The late April air carried the scent of damp earth and gasoline. Spring in Fort Wayne. Across the street, a kid on a bike skidded through a puddle laughing. Normal life moving on. My phone buzzed again. Then again. I let it. Great Lakes Credit Union was a squat brick building on the edge of town. The kind of place with plastic ferns in the lobby and lollipops at the teller stations. This is where we held our joint account. The manager, a tired-eyed woman named Casey, recognized my name when I showed my ID. "The joint account with Tiffany White," she said, typing. Then her fingers paused. Oh! She turned the monitor toward me. "There have been significant withdrawals." The numbers glared back. 2,000 here. $2,000 here, $5,000 there, escalating over months. The most recent, $47,000, dated 2 weeks ago, the day before Tiffany left for Colorado. All transferred to an external account. Where? I asked. Casey hesitated. It's under your wife's name only. Northern Lakes Credit Union. A branch I'd never heard of. An account I didn't know existed. Can you print the last 6 months? As the printer whirred, Casey tapped a pen against her desk. You'll want to look at the address on file for that external account. Scottsdale, Arizona. Not Colorado. Ted Harvey was watering his petunias when I pulled into the driveway. Our neighbor for 12 years, a retired pipefitter with a fondness for Budweiser and conspiracy theories. Miller, he called, wiping his hands on his overalls. Heard Tiffany's off meditating again. I pulled out my phone, showed him the balcony photo. You ever see this guy around? Ted squinted. Yeah, drove a gray Tesla, right? Picked her up a few times when you were out of town. He scratched his chin. Last time was hell, 3 weeks ago? Stayed the night. The air smelled of cut grass and gasoline. You're sure? Ted gave me a look. Son, I might be old, but I ain't blind. Jason Cole's LinkedIn profile was a masterpiece of contradictions. Former financial advisor, current mindfulness coach, founder of Zen Wealth Retreats. Align your money with your soul. His profile picture showed him barefoot on a beach, arms spread like some messiah of tranquility. Scrolling down, I found the timeline. 2015 to 2021. Senior VP at Merrill Lynch. 2022. Left corporate greed to pursue spiritual abundance. Present. Helping high net worth individuals awaken their financial karma. The comments section was a chorus of middle-aged women calling him life-changing. I took a screenshot, sent it to Lillian Kent with one line. Meet Jason Cole. Archie Jackson's office smelled like lemons and regret. Tiffany's attorney, a baby-faced 40-something in a too-tight suit, had agreed to meet me as a courtesy. He paled when I slid Megan's folder across his desk. This is, he swallowed. The trust is irrevocable, and her attempts to access it are documented fraud, I said. But you already knew that. Jackson's fingers trembled as he flipped through the pages. The air conditioner hummed. I'll need to confer with my client, he said finally. I stood. Tell Tiffany something for me. Jackson looked up, wary. The lavender's dying. 2 days later, Lillian called. Jackson just withdrew as her counsel, she said. And guess who she hired instead? I already knew. Max Lennox, the bulldog of Fort Wayne. A man who charged $1,000 an hour and kept a framed photo of himself shaking hands with Mitch McConnell on his wall. Lillian's voice was crisp. He's filed for an emergency hearing. Claims Tiffany has evidence. All financial decisions were mutual. I stared at the backyard, where the lavender had begun to brown at the edges. Let him try. The Allen County Courthouse smelled like lemon disinfectant and old coffee. I sat at the plaintiff's table, Lillian Kent to my left, while Max Lennox held court across the aisle. His suit probably cost more than my first car, navy pinstripe, gold cufflinks, the kind of tan that came from Palm Springs weekends. Tiffany sat beside him, spine straight, wearing a cream-colored blouse and the pearl earrings I'd given her for our 10th anniversary. She didn't look at me. Judge Kowalski, a no-nonsense woman with steel-gray hair and reading glasses perched on the tip of her nose, flipped through Lennox's motion. Counselor, she said, your client claims all financial decisions were mutually agreed upon. Yet Mr. White's filings allege. Lennox cut in with a smile. Your Honor, my client is prepared to testify that these withdrawals were for marital investments. A wellness retreat in Sedona, to be exact. Lillian didn't move. Your Honor, may we present Exhibit 12? The bailiff handed the judge a folder. Inside, bank records showing $178,000 transferred to Northern Lakes Credit Union. A lease agreement for a one-bedroom apartment in Scottsdale, signed by Tiffany 8 months ago. Ted's notarized statement. Saw the Tesla guy at least 6 times when Miller was out of town. Lennox's smile faltered. Tiffany's fingers tightened around her pen. Judge Kowalski adjusted her glasses. Mr. Lennox? A beat too long. Your Honor, my client maintains. Your client, the judge interrupted, has systematically drained marital assets to fund a separate residence in Arizona. That's not investment. That's concealment. Tiffany's breath hitched, a sound I knew well. The same one she'd made when our dog died, when her father missed our wedding, when she realized the lavender wouldn't bloom that first summer. Lennox leaned close to whisper in her ear. She shook her head. He whispered harder. Finally, she nodded. The settlement took 20 minutes to sign. Tiffany would return $89,000, half of what she'd taken. She forfeited all claims to the house, the inheritance, everything. The NDA meant she could never speak about our marriage. Not to journalists, not to Jason, not to the women at her damn meditation circles. Lennox signed first, his signature a slashing black scrawl. Tiffany's hand shook as she wrote her name, the ink smudging under her thumb. When it was done, Lillian slid the papers into her briefcase. Lennox ushered Tiffany toward the door without a backward glance. I caught up to them in the hallway. Tiffany. She turned. Up close, I could see the cracks in her foundation, the red rimming her eyes. I held out an envelope. You forgot these documents for your little place in Scottsdale. House passwords. Alarm codes. Everything you left behind. She took it mechanically. It was never about the money, I said. For a second, something flickered in her face. Not guilt, not sorrow, but something raw and startled, like she'd just woken up from a long dream. Then Lennox tugged her elbow, and she was gone. The farmhouse sold in 3 days. A young couple with twin girls, both clutching stuffed rabbits, stood in the backyard while their realtor gushed about the lavender-lined path. It's like something out of a storybook, she said. The girls chased fireflies as the sun dipped below the barn roof, their laughter bouncing off the flagstones I'd laid with my own hands. I signed the papers at the kitchen counter, the same spot where Tiffany had once scribbled grocery lists in that looping cursive of hers. Almond milk. Sage smudge sticks. The pen felt lighter this time. Downtown Fort Wayne smelled like rain and fried dough. My new loft was above an old hardware store, all exposed brick and factory windows that caught the morning light. I bought a leather couch, a coffee table made from reclaimed barn wood, and nothing else. The space echoed when I walked through it, but the silence didn't press on my ribs like it had in the farmhouse. It just was. Megan came by with a bottle of bourbon the day I moved in. She eyed the bare walls and nodded. Good bones. We drank on the fire escape, watching traffic crawl down Calhoun Street. Found a use for Greg's money yet? She asked. I pulled out the paperwork for the Gregory White Foundation, trade school scholarships for Gary kids who knew how to work with their hands. Megan scanned the mission statement and smirked. Supporting those who build things that last. Christ, Miller, she said, but her eyes were wet. He'd have loved that. The envelope arrived on a Tuesday. No return address. Just my name typed on plain white paper. Inside, a cashier's check for $89,275 and a single line. The rest of what I owed. I deposited it into the foundation account that afternoon. Another scholarship. Another kid who wouldn't have to choose between rent and learning to weld. That evening, I walked along the St. Joseph River, past the old steel bridge where Tiffany and I had scattered her mother's ashes 5 years ago. The water was high from spring rains, churning brown and relentless toward the Maumee. My phone buzzed. Theo, dinner still on for 7? Bringing that architect I mentioned. I watched a barge push against the current, its lights blinking red in the dusk. On my way, I texted back. The thing about betrayal is that it carves you hollow. But hollowness means there's space for new work, new whiskey, new laughter in empty rooms. I turned away from the water. Rebuilding, it turned out, was the best revenge. The last box from the farmhouse sat by my loft door, still unopened after 6 months. Inside were the wedding photos, her favorite copper pans, all the fragments of a life we'd built like careful architects. I picked it up, carried it to the dumpster out back, and let it drop with a final thud. At dinner that night, Theo's architect friend, a woman with calloused hands and a laugh that didn't hide its edges, leaned across the table. So I hear you design foundations that last. The river outside the restaurant window churned dark and ceaseless. Somewhere downstream, it would meet the Maumee, then the Erie, then the Atlantic. Water always finds its way. I lifted my glass. Only the ones worth keeping. The first scholarship recipient was a 17-year-old from Gary who wanted to build hurricane-proof homes. When she thanked me, her handshake was firm, her eyes bright with plans. As I walked away, I realized Greg had been right all along. You don't measure solid things by their weight, but by what they can carry. That's my story. Some of you will say I'm cold. That no man should walk away without a fight. That real men burn the world down for revenge. While some of you might say I was mean in not giving Air the house or part of my inheritance. You're welcome to your opinion. Just like you're welcome to sit across from the woman who promised you forever while she tried to funnel your dead uncle's savings into some guru's Tesla payment. To think of the smell her lavender shampoo on another man's pillow. To realize the person you built a life with was just waiting for the price tag to be right. Yes, I burn everything. And I made damn sure she choked on the smoke. Do consider subscribing to our channel, if you haven't done so already. It will really help us keep crafting more thoughtful, provoking stories for you.